or device named Couch.
Hello, welcome to the live stream. This is Dave with Free Orcs, and today, this week, we have a couple of members from last week in our Go live stream. I want anybody that's in the chat to let me know, if I hear an echo from my voice, which you probably do right now. I can see that. So let me go ahead and turn that off. Okay, you should not hear an echo now. So let me know if there still is in chat. And right now, so this week we have Hologant. He's a Greyhawk lore expert that's wrote many articles in the past for Living Greyhawk and other magazines. And we also have Costatus that's with us as well, that he's been around for a long time. Both have been DMing for 30 to 40 years each, and they're running the Temple of Elemental Evil campaign for the website that I created called Verbobonc Campaign Guide 576 Common Year. And they're using the articles I wrote, plus the modules I've written for the DMs Guild for this campaign. And they're having a lot of fun doing that and also creating more articles for the campaign. And so we just had a stream started now. I want to see who's in chat. If anybody's in here, let us know. So let me go ahead and check chat here and see if anybody's in here with us. Let's see what we got here. There we go. There's my chat window. All right. So I don't think anybody's really in chat right now. So if anybody does join us, let me know. And do you guys see the chat in your end?
Yeah.
All right. So Hologant, let's go ahead and introduce you guys again, just like last week. I want you to, tell me a little bit about yourself and your experience at Greyhawk and the work you've done, and introduce yourself. So you go ahead and start, Hologant.
Sure. So I've been running games since the early 90s. Generally, we've played in Verbobonc, or at least started in Verbobonc every time. So I'm a massive fan of the particular flavor that Verbobonc has, where you have humans and gnomes kind of sharing equal responsibility for a polity, and you've got a lot of Sylvan elves, both urbanized Sylvan elves and forest Sylvan elves that have a great bearing on how the flavor of the Viscounty runs. So I'm a big fan of running epic campaigns. So my last Greyhawk campaign went for, I think, around 7 or 8 years, and the current one is 3 or 4 years in the making.
Nice.
And I have a very cinematic style of storytelling. So inevitably I arrange my games in 3 acts. So we're still in the first act of my current game, where they're finding out what is going on with the rise of a third temple, 591 Common Year. And hopefully that will move into the second act pretty soon. But as every Dungeon Master knows, players will tell the story as much as the storyteller does. So if they decide to go off on a tangent, then off on a tangent we shall go.
Excellent.
Yeah,
that's a lot of Dungeon Masters that come from back in the day. Running campaigns these days are pretty much running their campaigns the same way. That seems to be the going popular thing these days, and everybody's been talking about it on the internet. And I approve of it. I'm glad that's happening now. And I think we talk more about that in a bit here. But it looks like Paul Caddy said he's on here right now, and he just posted that hello from Hymir Hellbrand. Hey, I know that name. Hymir Hellbrand, one of the Band of the Silver Spears from Hologant's current campaign. In fact, his character is on the Verbobonc Campaign Guide. His character, I believe, is in part of the Crimson Reapers gang from Divers that's holed up in Null. Is that right, Hologant?
No, he's one of the Gnarly Rangers.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
So he's one of the vassal rangers of Parsimon Tumacan of Coruscant. So he's been sent into into the Gnarly Verge because the current Ranger Knight in 591 of the Tor Badlands, who's a fellow by the name of Randar Redax, has gone missing due to the machinations of Shasta Calorius, the Green Dragon. So when Randar disappeared, most of his senior rangers vanished alongside him. So there's suddenly a massive hole in the power structure in the ability of the Gnarly Rangers to counter threats in the western verge of the Gnarly Forest. So Hamir is the guy who's supposed to be getting to the bottom of all that.
Well, I remember looking at Hamir, and where right now I have the Gnarly Ranger article on screen for everybody to look at, and I'm going to scroll down to all the notable Ranger Knights, and I see that he's not on the list for some reason. I thought we added him.
So he's very much a legacy character because Paul actually played Hamir's father back when we played D&D in the 90s. So when we sort of resurrected our 1990s campaign, he decided to play the son of his old character, which was very cool.
Okay. Well, on the screen is all the notable Rangers. The links in red are the clickable links of characters with separate articles. I think he's mentioned in one of these other sub-articles for one of these characters. But before we continue further talking about that, I know Costatus doesn't have a lot of time tonight, so I want to go ahead and have him introduce himself real quick. And I want him to catch up on the campaign he's running right now for the Temple of Elemental Evil. Yep. Hi, Costatus. Welcome to the live stream again. Thank you for showing up.
Oh, man, I really enjoy this. It's always fun to talk about the Temple of Elemental Evil with people who are passionate about it.
That's what we are.
Yeah, totally. So, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since I was 7 or 8 years old. And I've run the Temple of Elemental Evil an ungodly number of times. Well, no, not ungodly, 6 times, 5 times, I can't remember. And I'm running it right now with my son and 2 of his friends. And we're doing an online campaign because his 2 friends are in Montreal and my son's here in the Bay Area. And so we started off the campaign, and my son said, let's play the Temple of Elemental Evil. And I'm like, okay. And I always just struggled with that campaign because it's a really good campaign, but I could never figure out how to make it an incredible campaign because there's like so much opportunity if you have the time to like build on it. And I did not. Real job and so on. And
a lot of Dungeon Masters over the years have been taking work they've done from other campaigns to use for their own because of that reason. Everybody seems to be creating all this different varied locations and NPCs for the campaign, and so people get online and just grab that stuff to use.
And that's exactly what I decided to do. So I started looking online, and I discovered this Patreon, and I'm like, and then this World Anvil site, and I'm like, oh my God, I have found the mother lode.
Yeah. It's only 7 years of work.
Yeah, it was just the most. I started clicking on it, and it was kind of like, and this, this is so amazing. So anyway, so I started looking through it, and I had started the campaign, but after I read through everything that Dave here's produced, I was like, okay, we gotta do some surgery to what's going on. So the first bit of surgery was, I really liked how Dave makes it so that there's interlocked layers of conspiracies and everybody has an agenda. So I decided to play that hand quite a bit. So everybody in the village has got a different agenda. Everybody wants the party to report to them and only them. Everybody, well, nobody trusts everybody. Byrne and Reefus, I've decided, are that it's kind of left as open to the players. Are they really committed to protecting Verbobonc, or are they really committed to making money pretending to build a castle? I mean, it's been 7 years and there's only one tower, right?
Yes, that's true.
What exactly have they been doing for the last 7 years?
I can answer that if you want me to.
I think it would be doing many things.
But there's a reason for everything. There's a lot of lore out there. There's a lot of lore. There's a lot of hidden lore within the original T1 through 4 Temple of Elemental Evil module, if you read it closely.
Okay. No, I've read. I'd love to hear the answer, but maybe not here.
Yeah.
And I haven't decided what's really going on. I've just left it. Everybody's got a little bit paranoid about why everybody's doing what they're doing.
Yes, I see that.
Right. And so the recent one is the party makes it into the moat house, and through a series of random left turns ends up right at Lara's doorstep. And I'm like, okay, this is awkward. They weren't supposed to end up here. They're all going to die. What's going to happen? But
Yeah.
they decide they're going to bluff at Lareth. Now, it turns out that they had already killed one of Lareth's enemies since we played the T0 adventure.
T0 module by Joseph Block, Greyhawk Ragnar.
Yeah, it's a great adventure. So they'd actually killed one of Lareth's enemies, and another one of the cultists had told them, you should probably go talk to Lareth. So they show up and they convince Lareth that they're working, that they want to join him. And Lareth thinks, oh, wonderful, I've got new allies. But then he thinks to himself, better than having allies is a tool to eliminate my enemies. So Lareth has now sent them off to go get rid of bandits that are plaguing, that he feels aren't aligned with his interests. So he sends them off to the gnome town of Sheernob. Sheernob.
Yeah.
So the heroes arrive in Sheernob, and what I love about Dave's stuff is that it's got like two kinds of quests: fun quests that are entertaining, and like quests that advance the plot. So they walk into the local Honeymead Tavern. They get the quest to go find the wild boar. They get the quest to find the mead, which in our case was a dryad that was upset that they'd been dumped.
It's the goal is to bring the world to life.
And it achieves it. And so they're and then the other quest was Gnozbin is trying to get them to go fight some bandits, and somehow though Gnozbin wanted them to go after the bandits, but they wouldn't talk to Palsamarie Clee, who sends them against not the bandits but the Black Earth Raiders.
That's the local druid of Sheernob. She's a gnome druid. She's a bee druid with beehives.
Yeah. So
outside of town.
Yeah, she sends them off to go fight the Black Earth the Raiders. So they stumble on the Black Earth Raiders. And I start looking at the encounter and go, oh God, these players are not going to survive very long. So I'm trying to give them hints, and they're like, no, we have a plan. And so what they decide to do is they decide to have the cleric knock on the door, and the cleric has got the worst possible deception and bluffing you could possibly imagine, and declares, that he's lost. So the bandits look at him and go, tell him, don't believe him for an instant. And then he mutters, I probably should have hid my St. Cuthbert symbol. But unbeknownst to the bandits, the heroes had sneaked up to the wall, jumped over it, and through the magic of surprise and a lot of attacks in the 5th edition 2024 rules, if you use the right combination of weapons, managed to overwhelm 2 of the Black Earth Raiders in the first round. And so now they're currently, then Tallstaff, the druid, the Black Earth druid, is trying to convince them to stop fighting, but they're like, nah, we're going to kill you. They're like, could we arrive at a deal perhaps? Like, no, yes, you're going to give us all the honey, and so on. Oh, the other thing I forgot to say, why did they go after the Black Earth Raiders?
Yes.
Lareth doesn't care about the honey. What he cares about is this chest. And so there's this whole other quest that Dave introduced me to about this chest that is being taken from Verbobonc to the Kingdom of Selene, and that this chest is being used as a way to improve trade relations between the Kingdom of Selene and Verbobonc.
And that's a Living Greyhawk module called The Gift of Beauty.
Yeah, The Gift of Beauty. And so in my campaign, they have a spy. They have an elf who's a spy who had a very bad encounter with some diseases. And this spy has got information, but not all of the information is accurate. And so the spy's understanding of this is that the folks in Verbobonc periodically send artwork to the Kingdom of Selene, and the artwork that's taken, the folks from Verbobonc assume is the artwork that the elves like. But what this spy has heard is that it's the art that's taken is that they don't like. They consider it so hideous that they want it. The elves want it destroyed, so nobody has to look at it. And the art that's left behind is the art that's pretty. Anyway, so that's what this elf has heard. I've told them that maybe it's true, maybe it's not. So they're trying to look for this chest that Lareth wants, and why Lareth wants this chest, who knows? I haven't figured that part out. but I'm sure there will be a reason, if nothing else, to cause chaos. He's a beautiful man. Maybe he thinks it's a very beautiful piece of art. Maybe he's got other machinations and ways to embarrass the kingdom of Selene and Verbobonc. Maybe he wants to make a deal with the elves. Maybe he wants to make a deal with the folks and other agents of power. I haven't figured that out yet.
Well, I could help you with that too, of course.
Yeah, I know you can. And that's one of the things I like about being on his Patreon, because every time I'm stumbled, Dave's like, well, let me tell you, out comes another quest.
So just to let you know, by the way, real quick here as an example, the cult of the Temple of Elemental Evil would love to get their hands on that gift of beauty. It's a wonderful sacrificial item to sacrifice the Elder Elemental God, or Zugmoy, or even Uaz. He would love to get his hands on it too. Yes, okay. The damage it would do sacrificing such a precious item that was created by the other nature faiths of the realms would be really great indeed. They would love to get their hands on it.
Okay, that's great. All right, that's a totally yes. So all of these reasons, everybody's got reasons, and so right now the campaign is so with Dave's help, by the way, on his Patreon, which I totally recommend, in his Discord chat. With the way I'm making it is so that Lareth. So one of the problems with the way the modules were originally structured, and when I originally played them, was that Lareth was presented as a big bad guy, but it wasn't quite clear, like, other than the fact that he was hard to kill, why he should be scary. So what Dave and has helped, and Haligant and all the guys who've been here, is to make Lareth a mob boss, right? Who's got a region, and he's trying to make sure that all of the enemies he has around are gotten rid of. Right.
Well, there's a real good reason for that, because the original Temple of Elemental Evil module does state that Romog, which is the supreme leader of the Temple of Elemental Evil, is on purposely pitting the different cults against each other to keep them in line. And also Lareth is part of that as well. And I think he suspects Lareth's involvement with Loth. You have to read the article. Read the article for Loth and read the article for Lareth and Supreme Commander Hendrik, and also Senshok, and you'll get a lot more. You'll glean more information from those articles of what's really going on. But it's legitimate that Lareth would use his bandits to interfere with the other temples' activities out there in the world of the Viscounty and the Gnarly Forest. And the Earth Elemental Temple is very active in this area of the Cron Hills, so he would go after them and disrupt their plans.
Right, and so that's the idea, is that Lareth wants to control his area completely, because Lareth has other plans.
Well, actually, there's more to it. So, not does he only want to interrupt their plans, but he'd love to take the gift of beauty from them and possess it himself. So the temple, the Earth Temple, went out and did something. They're doing things, and he can interfere with that and take the credit or take advantage of it and make it his own.
Yeah, absolutely. And my point was, like, the way I'm thinking about it is Lareth is, so the party is going to get to this point in time where they have to decide, do they go after all the bandits first or go after Lareth first? And depending on what choice they make, there will be consequences. Some of those consequences will be, and I'm not going to reveal all the consequences, but my thinking is that if Lareth dies and the bandits are still alive, well, the bandits are probably going to say, great opportunity for us to seize control of Lareth's operation, and we have to we have to remind some local notables that they shouldn't be messing in things they don't have any control over.
Right.
If the party kills the bandits and then kills Lareth, well, then Lareth's bosses will want to get revenge on the party. Then, and if they decide, then there are all sorts of other options. And when you're playing with clever players, you never know. You have to be fluid as to what can happen. I play with another group who believes that their number one mission in life is to go off script as often as possible.
It's worth noting that as written, I mean, it's what adventurers do. They kill the bad guy and they take their stuff. And Lareth has some pretty choice items that the adventurers are definitely going to use. I think he's got magical mail. He's got a rod of striking. Adventurers are going to carry those around, and there are spies all over the Viscounty. And the thing about Lareth is he is not an agent of the four temples. So, David, I think you mentioned Romag. Romag is the high priest of evil elemental earth.
Yes.
And Lareth doesn't work for that guy.
Right.
That guy is a pawn as far as Lareth is concerned, because Lareth actually works for the greater temple,
Yes.
not one of the 4 lesser temples. You kill Lareth, you start wearing his stuff around, agents find out, and the greater temple, as written, will send assassins after you. So bear that in mind.
You both, I don't know if you're both aware that I wrote an article about a month ago about this subject.
Yeah, you did. I love that article.
How to protect your players against the big bad guys.
Yeah.
Don't wear the armor around.
Yeah. If they don't know you exist, they're not going to come after you. So the players have to be smart.
Yeah.
And if they're bragging at the tavern, buying everybody drinks, we just killed Lareth and all his men. I killed 5 at a time. I did this and that. I'm a great hero. Look at this armor. I got that right off his body.
You can smell the body complete with battle damage.
Drinks at everybody.
Yeah.
Of course, the agents are going to hear about it. Especially Zert is there at the tavern, and he's one of the temple
Absolutely.
agents. So
right, yeah. So
Absolutely.
So I'm trying
and Zert's even better because he'll drink you under the table and set you up for the assassins to come after you.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So the party's going to have some choices to make about what they're going to do with Lareth. And Lareth is going to try. Lareth is using them as a weapon against his enemies.
That's good.
Meanwhile, the leaders in the town are observing the party. They haven't decided on whose side they really are yet.
Well, one of the other DMs on our Discord, he's running his campaign in 598 Common Year, and he said, I can't do that in my campaign because we have a paladin in our group. What character classes is in your group?
Oh, 2 rogues, a monk, and a cleric of St. Cuthbert, who's having a lot of misgivings about, I'm playing Calmer as the kind of cleric who grew up his whole life in temples and now is out in the real world and realizing there's a large gap between the theory of religion and the practice of fighting out in the real world.
Yeah.
He's also So he's also trying to navigate, and he's also seeing that not the thing about the Church of St. Cuthbert is they have their own agenda.
Yes, they do. We have articles on that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so
it kind of outlines that, and they have a spy actually. Canoness DeVay is in Nob spying on, trying to find what activities there, where the orders are coming from, the marching orders from this organization of bandits. They're investigating right now at this stage in the campaign. They're still not aware of the second rising of the Temple of Elemental Evil yet.
Right. So Calmer is seeing that he's kind of in this twisted place where he's seeing that he's got this opportunity to explore the world, acquire some coin, get some power, learn about things, and he's trying to be a bit flexible in his doctrine and with the party to acquire information, because part of him is going that he's not entirely convinced everybody has been telling him the truth about what all the plans are.
Yeah, sounds like typical D&D when you have a paladin in the group or a cleric. But the cleric is an NPC, right? You're playing him?
Yeah, he's an NPC, right? And so if the party decides they don't want to carry the goody two shoes cleric, or they don't want him, there's always other NPCs. So there's 3 players, and I said that rather than having one fixed NPC for the adventure, they can keep finding NPCs along the way.
You just kind of reminded me of a plot point. Like in movies, just when something's about to come to a head, like an argument or a parting of ways or something falling apart, something dramatic happens. All of a sudden, out of the woodwork, the demons from this other plane shows up and starts causing chaos and ruckus and destruction and pretty much gels the players back together again. Right. And so maybe that's something that could help when the players start to fall apart a little bit, to hit them with something, not necessarily combat, but some kind of activity or action or something they noticed or something happening, something
I think that's
to keep their mind off of each other, but more focused on the greater campaign.
Yep. No, that's a great idea. Yeah. So there's a funny story about I did one campaign with the paladin, and the typical paladin arc, 1st through 5th level. I truly am lawful good. 5th through 10th level, the world has some gray. 15th through 20th, 10th through 15th level, there's the greater good. 15th through 20th level. we do what is good and we do what is necessary, right? And there's like,
yeah.
I read that in an article once, and I've had a friend of mine who played a paladin, and there's a certain truth to that, that there's like as you get more powerful and wiser, you realize that not everything is black and white, and sometimes there are shades of gray even for a paladin.
Yeah, I have a question real quick. The Earth Temple that you had them just visit your last session. So just to let everybody out there know, the Earth Temple isn't live yet. It's not the article you're looking at on screen right now is just the rough draft from my private site that I brought over that I have not rewritten
This is the Earth
yet.
Temple. This is the article in the Chernobyl adventure. Yeah.
Oh, the Chernobyl adventure. That's the module at the DM's Guild.
Right. Yeah. That's the one.
Okay.
That one has a lot of detail. In fact, it's got this really nice picture that you drew where there's some signs and the players go, wait, that looks odd. I thought these were bandits.
Yeah. Okay, I remember now.
Yeah, they loved it.
I write so much stuff, it's hard to remember it all. But
they loved it. I mean, that image was perfect. That was there like, wait, these aren't your average bandits.
Okay. Well, I just want to let everybody know that's listening that there is an Earth Temple Raider camp out there with Maris and Cadix Nightshade. Cadix is a gnome from Greenway Valley, but he happens to be an evil wizard gnome. And they're both recruited by Romag of the Earth Temple. And they're the ones in my campaign that took the Gift of Beauty. And they're working with the Knolls from the Knoll King from the Lord Mill Mountains. And that's also in the modules too, who that clan is, which is the Jagged Fang clan. So anyway, they're the ones that raided the Gift of Beauty a mile from the border of Selene, killed everybody, almost everybody, left the dead, left the dying, and took off with the Gift of Beauty and headed towards this raider camp. And then Larth could easily take it from them and do something with it. That didn't happen in my campaign. I had them take it to the actual Earth Temple outpost, which is like a little mini dungeon. It's an abandoned monastery, and that's where it is kept. But that's what happened in my campaign. But your campaigns, now about my articles and all the locations, I know it's overboard. Like Noel, it's got 55 locations. Yeah, but as a dungeon master, you don't have to use every location.
No.
They're there in case you need it. So it's better to have it in case you need it than not have it. So that way you're always prepared, including all these hundreds of quests I put out there and all these products. I'm not expecting your players to run through all these quests, but you can read through them and pick them and see what fits the situation in your campaign.
Right. So one of the quests that I ran this morning before we went off to fight the Raiders was the quest where Kino Pool's vegetables suddenly become enchanted.
That was fun. They're dancing around and stuff around the.
So the potatoes ran around, and so what the one of the rogues grabs the potato, and then the other two potatoes start hitting him. Yeah. And so he takes a knife and stabs the potato, and the two potatoes kind of go like. The broccoli is waving its hands at the rogue, who then throws an arrow through it, and it goes like this.
Well, I've been running this Dolmenwood campaign, which is old school essentials at the school. I have 50 kids in the D&D program there, and they're from 6th grade to senior year. And the Dolmenwood campaign is more of the old fairy tale type enchanted world of fairies and elves and stuff. And there's some silly things like that, like the gingerbread men, things like that, the witch and the wardrobe, that kind of flavor. And sometimes it's kind of goofy and funny too. And also other times it's very sinister and scary, but the kids love it. And stuff like what you just described, they love stuff like that. And they just have it gets them into role playing. It gets them to really react and dance around the room and have fun.
Yeah. And that's what I love about a lot of those side quests is they're fun.
Yeah.
They're not, like vegetables bouncing around, not the world. The world is not coming to an end. And I like that about the colored quest, because one of the things that can get very overwhelming when you play some of these campaigns is the sense of okay, does anybody have fun in this world?
No. We all die. So the thing also about all these quests is I make sure all of them tie into the greater quest line. Everything eventually leads to the Temple of Elemental Evil. I want to make sure of that. It's like layers of an onion. And no matter which direction your players go, if they go after this quest or pursue this line of investigation, it ultimately has something to do with any kind of involvement with the temple.
Yep. Anyway, Dave, this was great. So right now the players just are attacking the Earth Temple. Sorry, not the Earth, the Black Earth Raiders in the Cron Hills.
Yeah.
And they're going to find the honey, but they're not going to find the chest because the chest is going to be a little bit further south near Ostberg. Sorry, that's the name of the town, the Elven town. Ostberg.
Yeah, Osferk is on the border of Saline and Southern Viscounty.
Right, but I haven't decided if they're going to go find it there or they're going to go back to Null. Anyway, we'll see what the players do after they find the missing chest. But what I really am hoping they do is they go back to Hamlet, and Kenter reaches out to them and says, well, there's a bigger problem we have. There's all these bandits, and we need someone to go look into these bandits.
There's bandits everywhere.
At this point in time, I mean, part of me is like going, what have Bird and Reef has been doing? Like, they're supposed to be this military authority, and there's bandits everywhere. Trade is going on. Okay.
I write a lot of dialogue, and that's an excuse that a lot of leaders use. They can't leave the city or the town or the fort undefended to go waltzing around the forest looking for bandits in their hideouts. They can't afford to leave the manpower. They don't have it.
Right.
Also, what makes it worse is the Viscount himself pulled back all the patrols of the mounted borderers from the Cron Hills. So they're no longer patrolling the long road, the merchant road that goes north to south from Ostberg to the city of Verbobonc.
Yeah. Coincidence? Who knows?
Something's happening.
Exactly. Why did the Viscount decide to pull back just as the temple was gaining in power?
There's several NPCs located in the city, in the Council of Lords, and the politics of the Viscount. And some of the lords are up to no good. They're trying to steal the gem and silver mines from the gnomes, and there's also they're committing crimes in the gnarly forest about the wood, and the elves are getting pretty upset about it. That's Twilight Falls. So there's a lot of stuff going on politically.
Right. Oh yeah. No, so that's a great. At some point in time, I'm going to have to ask my players to ask the question: wait, why are all these bandits running around here? Shouldn't there be some central government power? Anyway, Dave, I'm going to have to let you go because I have. This is great. Thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoy these conversations, man.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, and I'll look forward to seeing you on again sometime. And let us know, follow up on your campaign with us.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
All right, Hologant, it's just me and you right now, unless somebody else wants to join us.
Sounds fun. I just want to go back to the tower once again. I mean, when you look at the purpose of building towers and castles and whatnot, you have to remember Byrne and his badgers. There's only 25 of them, and you've got, these guys are essentially mounted infantry, so they can cover about 15 miles around Hamlet, which will kind of get them to the gnarly verge, but no further. That's kind of where their purview ends. They aren't really there to deal with the bandits in the woods. They're there to deny the chance that there will be another temple rising. If you put a fortification somewhere, the bad guys are going to think twice about raising an army anywhere nearby. Because if there's a castle there, they're not going to be able to traipse around the countryside, raiding and pillaging, because there will be a response. So they're there more or less to stop the rise of a new temple, not really to stop the bandits, because if the bandits are in the verge, they're actually outside the purview of the Lords of Doomwatch.
Right, because most of the time bandits are not attacking the village per se. They're preying on merchants.
They're on the high road. Yeah. And obviously, if there are merchants using the high road, they're probably dealing with lumber, or they're dealing with the various fruits of the forest, whether it's amber or yarpik nuts, or those sorts of things. If there's big trade going on, it's using the Velvet Diver. It's not using the high road. It is cheaper to load things on a barge and take it downstream than it is to take a perilous forest road.
And the stream is not navigable by merchants past Nib's Rest, which is 10 or 12 miles north of Hamlet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
speaking of which, this is a common theme. It's a common thread of how their bandits are handled in most campaigns. Even the B2 module to keep on the Borderlands, they say the same thing. They're not going to go to the Caves of Chaos looking for the bandits because they can't leave the walls undefended. And a lot of modules are the same way. They have the same excuse. And I find it hilarious. You get certain players in your group, and they always have this wise ideas. Let's just have them go take care of it. They got all these men. Just tell them where it's at and point the way. And hey, that's where the bad guys are. Go get them. They go, no, wait a minute. You guys are playing Dungeons and Dragons. You're the heroes. You know, you want to have other people doing your job. Also, another comment about that is like the old movies, the Western movies, or that Japanese movie from a long time ago, or the Seven Men.
The Seven Samurai.
Yeah, and the village hires the adventurers to come take care of it, the problem.
Yeah.
And that's a common theme for Dungeons and Dragons. I know the newer edition of Dungeons and Dragons, the way they write modules these days they don't follow those tropes as much as that we're used to. But that, we're talking about the Temple of Elemental Evil, which is the original of all original tropes of D&D. So we have to follow the how the world is, a world of Greyhawk. And that is something to be expected, that kind of thought, that kind of the way they handle things. And we try to keep things as realistic as possible with medieval times of the 14th, 15th, 16th century.
Yeah.
Right?
And I mean, and the best way, in my opinion, to do the Village of Hamlet and to do the Temple of Elemental Evil is rival parties of adventurers.
True.
So, you have the initial investigations take place, and then, Bern and Rufus, they're not going to send the badgers into the teeth of peril. What they're going to do is send missives to Viscount Wilfric. Viscount Wilfric will make funds available. Adventurers will flock to the area, and it's just throw adventurers at the problem until there's no longer a problem.
Right.
So it's also a really good way to pace your adventure. If the party is hanging around in town too much or taking too many side quests, other people are going to go and take care of business. So by the time they get there, they're spectators. It's a really good way to give your party a gentle nudge in the right direction. Just have other adventurers carrying home chests of loot and stories of adventure, and then getting assassinated because they killed Larry.
Well, I actually wrote an article about this a long time ago, and I forgot I wrote it. It's over on my private site. I think I wrote this like 5 years ago. And I should have added this to the module I sold on DM's Guild for the side quest of Hamlet. And a lot of this is on there, but I see now that looking at this article, which is free, you can access this. You can access this article on the World Anvil website, Verbobonc Campaign Guide 576 Common Year. And I was thinking about rewriting it. I started doing it today because I had a couple Dungeon Masters asking about this. And basically, all these quests we've been talking about, right? Some of them are side quests. Some of them are main plot quests that drive towards the Temple of Elemental Evil. What putting that down, the big quest. Just like in MMO terms, you got the prime quest, and then you have the side quest. So one Dungeon Master, I think Astidus asked this, that if is there a way I could like section them off or create a different mark them, flag them to prime quest and side quest, because there's so many quests that he was getting confused and he wasn't sure, what to use in his campaign to send them in a certain direction, to be organized with these quests.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, yeah, you know what? I think I wrote something like that before. And so on screen right now, it's called Dealing with the Bandits. And I'm in the middle of kind of rewriting this right now or adding to it, because I wrote this long before those side quests. And basically is an introduction. So this assumption here is this kind of relates to what we've been talking about. So when the players first get to the Village of Hamlet, they encounter bandits. That's the typical encounter starting the T1 module, campaign module. You on your way to Hamlet, whatever direction you came from, Wild Coast, City of Verbobonc, whatever, you're going to get hit by a bandit ambush. And so if the players are successful at that, and hopefully they take some prisoners or at least some heads, they come into Hamlet, and the guard, Elmo and some of the local guard there will see the players enter and they'll be challenged by the guard, at the crossroads with the welcome wents. And so usually the players will tell them, yeah, this is what happened. And they'll show their proof, their prisoners or the heads, and they'll hand over the prisoners to the guards, and the guards will take them over to Burden Rufus's tower. So right then and there, the players are known by all the local leaders. And so that's what this introduction is for. So this assumes that happened. And so then you're going to have a summons from the elder of Hamlet, or Lord Byrne and Lord Rufus. They're not lords yet in the first module. And I have dialogue I wrote here. And he's talking about how these bandits are not simple thieves. They are organized, ruthless, and their attacks become bolder. They prey on the merchants and even threaten our farms. If we allow this to continue, Hamlet's prosperity and perhaps its very survival will be at risk. I got a cold. So there's a council of, I listed the council. The council consists of Ostler Gundegut, Captain Zeb Fletcher, that's Elmo's dad, Drew Ashstaff, the druid, Canon Turgeon, the new cleric of St. Cuthbert, and I believe Elmo's on this panel too. Oh, and of course, Byrne and Rufus. So I have a section about how they handle the bandit prisoners, because that comes up, how they take them away and interrogate them. Captain Zeb makes a remark, more dialogue, follow-up opportunities, it's written out here, hints and leads to uncover the training grounds at the Moat House, the role of the farm outside of the fens there, which is the staging area. I'm adding links to this new article I'm making. The bandit hierarchy of the captain in the above ground tower versus the bandits in the lower with Lareth. There's an actual sergeant and lieutenant down below. So I got all that out, figured out in the articles. It's all planned out. It's all laid out. Clues. So I wrote a section about the clues pointing towards the Temple of Elemental Evil, and then follow-up quest into the Moat House. The farm I talked about, the staging house, confronting that sergeant up top, the network. And the network leads to, this is before I even wrote some of these locations. There's a hunting cabin just outside of the Temple of Elemental Evil, that secret tunnel. That's how they get supplies and slaves into the Temple of Elemental Evil through that secret tunnel. That's where the hunting cabin is.
The burnt down house with the well next door. Yeah.
So I have a VTT battle map for that location, and that location has an article and it's fully keyed with the gnolls from the Gnoll King. See how that works? So they even have a shaman with them. So it's a pretty and hyenas and a giant hyena. So that's a deadly encounter. But anyway, that's besides the point. So as you can see, this article doesn't have a lot of links, but the one I'm going to create is going to have a lot more links to tie this all together. So that's what he said he was missing. He was missing an article to tie in all the main plot line quests, and then he wants a list of all the side quests in a separate section, so you can tell between the two. And I started working on that today. So
cool.
Yeah.
I hopefully will be finishing up Clan and Lenafel today. I had to do a bit of a rewrite because I had no idea Hrothgar the Green was such a powerful dragon. So in the old Gygax novel Artifact of Evil, there is a scene where Gord and his friends, they're trying to get, well, they're going after the dwarf Obni, who is Ayuza's assassin, and his band of brigands. So he's got a crazy band of brigands that are, cutting a swathe of destruction through the Welkwood on their way up to essentially Ostwerk, the Cron Hills, and they're kind of heading in the direction of the border of Selene. And I think Curly Greenleaf, I think it was, is the druid who's a member of the party. He casts this spell where he creates this flaming chariot, and they take to the sky to try to cover some ground, and they wind up in the middle of a fight. There is a green dragon who Curly describes as the biggest green dragon he's ever seen. And the green dragon has a rider, and it's actually on the cover of Artifact of Evil. You've got
I should pop that up.
Yeah, there's the image of Gord with his magical sling about to cast a bullet at the dragon and the rider, and
I can't see.
Just making some eyeball calculations of how big that dragon is. Like its body length, so not including its neck and head and its tail, is about, I would say, 25 to 30 feet. So you have a very old, scary dragon there who, A, has a rider, B, is either the rider or the dragon is capable of casting a Globe of Invulnerability spell. And the dragon has no problem at all crossing the border of Selene and chasing the heroes most of the way to Endstad. So I thought we had sort of a young dragon who was kind of a bit TOEE and interested in mating with Shosta Clarinus, but it's not that at all. He's actually a very powerful, very old dragon who drifted north from the Sus forest because he was interested in what was going on at the Temple of Elemental Evil. So all of a sudden we've got a new player on the scene who might need a bit of detailing. So I've had to sort of rewrite quite a lot of Clan and Lenafel because they are very close to Rothkor's hunting grounds, as are a number of the border counties of Selene. So I've had to sort of go back and take another look at those and factor in this idea that there is an ancient green dragon who is right on their doorstep.
Well, for those that don't know, Halagant wrote the original articles for Selene, and they're on the World Anvil website. So if anybody want to play an elf from Selene or involved in any of their politics, those articles are there for their use, including Anstead, the Council of the Elves, Queen Yolanda, and some principalities there. And you're referring to the Greyhawk Adventures by Gary Gygax called Artifact of Evil. So I wanted to mention real quick that Greyhawk Grognard himself, I put him on screen, his video. He just put a video out review of that book. And on screen right now is the cover. And there's the dragon you're talking about with a rider on top of the dragon. And you're trying to determine who that rider is.
Yeah, I'm very interested. You know, if anyone's sort of watching this and has some great ideas, feel free to throw it up in the chat because I will take advice, you know, because, you know, dragons notoriously, you know, powerful dragons usually don't accept riders. So here we have
unless
a dragon
magically induced.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're not going to control an ancient dragon. I mean, and I mean, if you are controlling an ancient dragon, then all of the major players in the Flornets will know who you are. Like, you know, the Circle of Eight is probably taking a really close look at you.
That's true.
Yeah. So is this guy a partner to the dragon, a servant of the dragon, or, you know, are they, you know, is it terrifying and he controls the dragon? Yeah. In any case, yeah, I won't spoil what happens in the scene, but it's a very tense scene. It's actually really well written.
Well,
and one of the things I love about the Gygax books is I really do feel like he's had a game session and he's rolled an encounter. The party has dealt with it and moved on. It kind of reads like that.
Yes. I need to read it again. It's been years since I've read those books.
Yeah. I was inspired to reread them recently. So I've sort of I got to that scene and I've sort of put it down again. But I plan to finish the novel this week.
So John D just joined us about, I don't know, 5 minutes ago. John D retired. He said, "Good evening, all. Thank you for joining the stream, John. I appreciate you coming to watch us here." So yeah, on the screen I put up Greyhawk Grognard's. You know, we talk all the time, and I ask him about lore, and I follow his lore for the Temple of Elemental Evil with the Elder Elemental God, tying that in with the G's and the D's and the Q1 and Loth. That whole
it's really good
module
work.
series.
Really good.
So I like his work. He did 15 years of research figuring that all out, and that's what I want to follow. So there is more theorism in my website that I actually follow what Greyhawk Grognard determined, which is the original intentions of Gary Gygax.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, based on a lot of interviews with him, just to be clear. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah. And his blog is a great first stop for anyone wanting to take their knowledge of the lore of Greyhawk to the next level.
Yeah.
It really is impressive.
So this dragon you're working on, I'm looking at the map right now. It's on screen. So if you go north, let me, on the map, as you can see, top right-hand corner, this is DM only locations tab. And there you go. All the dungeons pop up. And this is dragon called Lair of Costistorlurinus.
So I like to pronounce it Shostaclorinus because
Costa-
Costaclorinus just hits my cheese meter a little too high.
Costalorinus. That's hard.
Costaclorinus, I just, caustic chlorine, like, come on, guys. So Shostaclorinus is how I pronounce it.
Okay.
Simply because it sounds, less cheesy and it sounds more draconic to me.
True, it does.
Like sibilant.
They should have had a
Yeah,
nickname.
so
They should have made up a nickname for that dragon too.
I mean, they really did, the Green Mother.
Oh, the Green Mother. You're right. No, the kobolds
Yeah.
and goblins call her the Green Mother.
Yeah.
The little tribe that worships her there at that location. And I had this article. Actually, I'll pull it up right now. Read full article. So the dragon you're talking about, is there a connection between these two dragons?
Well, the dragon, I think, is interested in what Shostaclorinus is up to because, it's quite possible he is the oldest and nastiest dragon in this greater forest. By that I mean the Gnarly, the Whelkwood, and the Sus. I mean, an ancient dragon is really, I'm not terribly well versed at this point in 5th edition. I think ancient is as old as it gets. At least in the vanilla rules. But I mean, by measuring the size of this dragon, and using the Draconomicon, it's a 3rd edition source, which is just the best when it comes to dragons. I would put his age at anywhere between 800 and 1,000 years old. So this is a dragon who has dwelt in this forest really since the time of the Great Migrations. And I've chosen to write him as a very curious dragon. He likes to look at things from afar and then move the levers of power and rumor and cause chaos and then send in agents to, fluff out his horde a little bit. So he's interested in the Temple of Elemental Evil because the Temple of Elemental Evil is causing chaos. It's causing chaos in Verbobonc. It ultimately will cause chaos in Divers. It will ultimately cause chaos in the Wild Coast. And this is an opportunity for the dragon. So I think that the dragon would be equally interested in Shostaclorinus for 2 reasons. One, she's interesting. She is a green dragon who does what green dragons do best. She gets in there. She engages in intrigue. She turns people against each other. And if you're 1,000 years old, I think that kind of thing would be very entertaining to watch. So he's an admirer. He's looking at Shostaclorinus from afar and really enjoying the show.
Well, they're both the same age, I think, because here...
No, Shostaclorinus is young.
She's an ancient green dragon is what I got listed as.
I mean, the original source for her makes her an adult.
Oh, that's right. I should change
So
this.
she's only about 200.
Oh, I think I know why. I know why now. The reason it's listed as ancient on this 5E stat block is because of the rules. I think that's what happened.
I see.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, Shostaclorinus, I think, is exceptional because she was such a plague to the elves of the Whelkwood before she was nearly slain some 30 years ago. And she managed to get away. A party of elite elven adventurers went after her. And she won the fight, but she was nearly mortally wounded. Or rather, she didn't win the fight. She killed the leader of the elves and she had to flee. So she survived, and the elves were unable to find out where she went to ground, and she went into a deep healing sleep.
Yes.
And when she came out of it, she immediately, the first thing she does is she goes after a tribe of Verbig, and she supports them and makes them her servants. And from there, she just starts establishing this web and carving out an enormous territory right on the border of the Bi-County.
Well, I wrote a cover article for her, and it does list all the druids and the rangers in the area and the politics involved and the elves too. So I did make sure I covered all that lightly for anybody to use in their campaign, but not into too much depth. I did add dialogue when you first get there to her lair, how she would talk.
Yeah.
I like writing a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think she's best because she is not an old dragon, but she's a brilliant dragon, and she, like for someone like Rothkor, who would be much older and has probably been there and done that in the past, he'd be looking at Shosta Clarinus with admiration, and he'd be very curious about what happens next, and he'd want to be taking treasure for his horde.
Well, they're obviously both from the Welkwood, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's at least from the short discussion I had with Anna.
Anna Meyer.
Rothkor is originally from the Sus, and he's gone north. He's recently relocated to the north.
Okay.
Perhaps even to the old hunting grounds of Shosta Clarinus before she was taken down. So he's, he could be the granddaddy of a dozen nasty dragons in the southern Welkwood and the Sus.
Do you think the cause of both these dragons moving north might be the reaction to that Earth dragon cult in the Pomage?
I mean, potentially. I mean, I don't think there's really any link examined between the Earth dragon and actual dragons. The Earth dragon is a nature spirit. It's not an ascended dragon or anything like that. Yeah. As far as I know, I'd be happy to be corrected there. I think it's just opportunity. I mean,
okay.
The at the end of the Hateful War, when the humanoids, those of them that survived, I mean, they ran a gauntlet to get from the Pomage and the Cron Hills around the border of Selene, the length of the Welkwood, and down into the Sus, and then emerging into the Pomage. And I imagine the dragons down there would have had a bit of a glut, and they would have got an enormous amount of treasure. And maybe it's just slim pickings now. The Pomage is kind of done. So they're moving north looking for fresh hunting grounds, because there's been a vacuum left by this enormous displacement of very aggressive humanoids, and they're looking for fresh treasure. I really think that the idea of Rothkor suddenly being in the Welkwood is simply because he is old and he's bored and he's an opportunist.
Okay.
Yeah. But in any case, like a really fascinating character, particularly with that rider. So, his lair is really only about the edge of his hunting grounds are really only about 25 miles or so from Oakvein. And, for those of you who are unaware, Oakvein is an enormous oak tree that is, it was created from a cutting from the timeless tree in the Vesve. And we're talking an oak tree that's 250 feet tall. So, very much, the idea of it is almost like Lothlorien. You have this untouchable tree surrounded by treants, surrounded by very powerful elven spellcasters. And you have this tension of a ancient dragon who has set up shop 25 miles away. It's kind of cool.
That map you sent me of the different areas of the gnarly forest?
With the bandits?
No, that was...
with the gnarly ranger.
Yeah, the gnarly
rangers. Yeah. Yes.
I don't know why. I added it to the gnarly forest or the gnarly rangers article. Oh, there it is. How come it didn't pop up before? Okay, so in the gnarly rangers article, I don't know why I didn't see this earlier while I was trying to get through these articles here. If you scroll down to the middle. So this map is by Helligant. He actually provided this to me, and he actually has zone of controls or named areas of the gnarly forest. And so you'll find a lot of this lore in a lot of these articles referring to these areas of the gnarly. And where did you get these original names, like the Tor Badlands or Cron Woodlands? Where did you get those names originally?
I came up with the Tor Badlands, I think. I've been using that term for about 20 years. Dang. Just because, you've got, I mean, the Tor Badlands essentially, I think the first time I came across that, I think, is it Noble Ambitions, the very first adventure?
Yes.
For, they make
BR01.
Yeah. you've suddenly got, on the Imrid's flow, you've suddenly got a swamp, and I don't think the swamp was there before that.
No, it wasn't.
And
there's a big change between Anna Meyer's maps and the original World of Greyhawk maps and the T1 module maps. And everybody seems to make that mistake a lot. I get a lot of that when people come to my Discord. They're always referring to these geographical locations on the original maps from the module. It has nothing to do with this campaign because it's so much has changed, and the catalyst for that change is Living Greyhawk, and Anna Meyer's kind of cemented that in canon with her maps that everybody's using. So I don't want to fight against something so popular that we're just going to go with it. And so whatever is on that of Meyer's map is pretty much now cemented of what consists of Greyhawk for running this campaign, at least, right?
Yeah.
But you added these zones.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to think, very, very organically, no pun intended, regarding the Gnarly Woods, about where matters of import were. So you've got Coruscant, which is the central heartlands. It's kind of the safest place in the forest in terms of you have Clan Sherendil, you have Clan Meldarin. You have the two most populous and
you have Korstoth, which is the hometown of the Northern Rangers.
Exactly. So that is kind of the area of least concern. It's where the Gnarly Rangers are strongest. And then I thought I would create the Tor Badlands because you have the Temple of Elemental Evil. You have this swamp, which is obviously going to be a magnet for things like black dragons, green hags, trolls. So you've got two nasty areas there that are just going to be magnets for trouble. And because you've got a swamp and because you've got elemental, magical, chaotic phenomena taking place, the Rangers would just be looking at it and just going, "That's a bad place." So
the first rising of the Temple of Elemental Evil happened there too. So the thing I was concerned about, and I didn't want to make this mistake, is originally Viscounty of Verbobonc wasn't that bad when it came to monsters. You might find a troll or an ogre, and adventurers will go off and kill it. That kind of level of threat. We're not I'm totally on the west side of the continent here, along the Crystal Mist Mountains or anything like that. We're talking about the heart of the breadbasket of civilization. So there's not going to be too much bad stuff, especially after the hateful wars in the Lord Mountains where they cleaned out all those tribes. So it's not going to be too bad in those. And also the fence isn't that big, really. Not really. And it's not a big area. So I didn't want to go overboard and put anything too powerful there, because I thought that'd be kind of lopsided. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And if you look at the old random encounter tables for the Viscounty, going back to 1980, you've got civilized and uncivilized. And civilized, your typical random encounter is going to be a patrol of knights or merchants or gnomes or dwarves or elves selling stuff, So, but then you get to the fringe, and where you've got the Etta Hills, and then suddenly you've got this terrible swamp. You've got the Fens of Tor, and you've got the Temple of Elemental Evil. Just Badlands just seem to suit. So I called that the Tor Badlands.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, north of that you've got the Riverland, which is it actually follows the curve of the Velvediver, so their concerns are a little more prosaic. Their concerns are over settlement.
I also think that area is a heavy environment. It's a heavy area with human woodsmen. Those are woodsman towns. They live off the land. They're hunters and they're timber, lumber. I think that's the industry there is lumber and hunting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the local ranger knight, her main concern is overpopulation and over logging of the forest. And she works very, very closely with the Druids of the Old Faith to try to counter that. East of that, you've got what I call the Lake Verge, So this is the part of the forest that intersects with the domain of the Free City of Divers. And
Yes.
Divers is a shipbuilding powerhouse. So what's going to happen to the forest next to the shipbuilding powerhouse?
Yeah, they'll be harvested.
Yeah. And I live in a part of Australia where we used to have some of the tallest trees in the world, and most of them are gone now, and it's because of shipbuilding.
Wow.
So no one's allowed to touch those forests anymore. But the forest took a massive hit, and it's because those trees grew very tall and very straight, and that's what shipbuilders want. So the gnarly ranges in the Lake Verge, they're worried about their ip trees, which grow very tall and straight. They're worried about their roan woods, and you've also got the problem of in the Living Greyhawk campaign, there was a necromancer who is actually a lich who was a druid who tried to open a gate to, I think, Hades at the Battle of Bad Deep, and everything went a little bit wrong. And Bad Deep is kind of in the southwest of the purview of the Lake Verge, and it is a growing blight that the gnarly rangers and the druids work yearly to try to limit. So again, you've got more prosaic concerns because politics is a massive issue. How does the gnarly ranger counter potentially thousands of troops that divers can send into the Verge to ensure their logging rights? So they need to take a more diplomatic approach. In the east, we've got the Greyhawk Verge, and you've got very similar concerns there, but you've just got more of a broader swathe. So that's kind of verging on the Cairn Hills and going all the way down to Hardby nearly, and the north of the Wild Coast. So they have very similar concerns as well. So they're trying to work with Lord Loxwell, who is a landed knight who is a member of Greyhawk's nobility. So they try to sort of tap him, and their major concern is Blackthorn.
Yeah, I see Blackthorn on the map right now. That's the home turf. That's the tribe of Blackthorn of ogres and orcs.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful location that's really well set out in the City of Greyhawk box set. And there's been a lot of links made. I think the Divers Living Greyhawk campaign connected them to the Pomage. Which is an interesting storyline you can take. I would probably prefer to sort of ally them with local Underdark communities. As written, the ogres are in control and the orcs are their slaves, but that is not necessarily a static situation.
Right. Well, what I did in my campaign is I wanted to add some organization to the orcs in the campaign. And and they were the only real tribe I was aware of 5 or 6 years ago. And so I chose them to collaborate and work with certain Temple of the Elemental Evil agents, and they were made aware of the ancient Sul ruins just east of the Fence of Tor, within the Tor Badlands.
The Skull Cave,
So they sent a warband there to take possession of these ruins, and they're encamped there. And that's when the players get there to recover the lost treasures of House Osbury. And so they have to defeat the warband, the chief war band guy and his shaman and all his orcs there. And that's why, and that's the only thing in my research, I wanted to use, I try to stick to canon as much as possible, what exists already out there. I just don't want to make something up if I didn't have to. And I found them, so I decided to use them because I thought that'd be cool. And I like the name Blackthorn Orcs, And so that's what I did. And then you came along, and now you introduced like 2 or 3 more tribes in the area.
I mean, and just for the simple fact that, I mean, when you've got a general route like what happened at the end of the Hateful Wars, there's always going to be stragglers who don't stay with the main horde. So I thought, what might happen there? So I made up the Storm Eye Orcs and a bunch of other very, very small tribes that were almost wiped out, and they took shelter in the Fens of Tor and in the Tor Badlands, and became a problem there because orcs breed. And it's been 3 or 4 generations. So in 591, the Ranger Knight of the Tor Badlands hates orcs, and he has basically annihilated most of those tribes. But those that remain have kind of coalesced into the Storm Eyes. The other major tribe is the Howling Moon, and the Howling Moon were the orcs that IUs sent south through the Underdark to be the foot soldiers, or some of the foot soldiers, to the first temple. And when the first temple fell, the orcs fled into the Fens of Tor, and now these two orc tribes are warring over who gets to control that lovely bit of real estate.
Well, I'm bringing up the map now. I wanted to show everybody on screen that I added those tribes, I believe. So DM only locations. And if I zoom in, I didn't add them here. Where did I add them? Oh, it's the Eastern Viscounty. Okay, so let me go back to the Eastern Viscounty. I added them there. So anybody wanting to add these tribes to their campaign, and they have been added to all the articles I wrote. So this is the Eastern Viscounty map, and I go ahead and go to the DM only locations, and sure enough, there they are. Okay, so there's House Asbury Manor. There's Penwick right there. So if we go east to Emride Run, and then the Fens of Tor, and then if you go southeast, Vassal Tor is the Lizardman village that I've created. That's available online with the VTT map. I'm almost done with the lore level. I got sidetracked though because I'm working on a manor for Nob. And right here, this white square is the Howling Moon clan, originated from the war-torn lands of Uas, transplanted to the Western Gnarly Forest. That happened after the Greyhawk Wars, and they don't really exist in my timeline of 576 Common Year, right? And then before you enter that, a little bit to the north is the Storm Eyes clan, and they kind of they raid, they harvest and they hunt in the Fens of Tor and cause trouble up and down through this section of the forest. So there's two clans right there. And is there another one? That was it, right?
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
I remember now. And down south is the Hill Giant clan, but it's not on this map. Okay.
Yeah, the White Rock. Yeah, and I really wanted to show two different kinds of orc culture there, because when you go back to AD&D, orcs were these lawful evil, quite militaristic society, whereas as the editions moved along, orcs became more barbaric, more tribal, more wild, more chaotic. So, the Storm Eyes, they are quite content to block the road and demand a tax and then let the merchants through. Whereas the Howling Moon will just annihilate everything in sight, take the booty, go back and have a celebration. So these two orcs are chalk and cheese. So I really wanted to show, I don't know, I guess it was for my own entertainment, to sort of game out in my own mind what would happen between first edition orcs and third edition orcs. That was kind of the genesis of that storyline.
Well, on the screen right now is the article for the Storm Eye clan, and it's fully written out, all their origins and their history, the clan, the structure of their clan, the chieftain and the warlord, the shaman. 5e stat block on the right with some artwork there, and there's also the tribe icon emblem that they use. And if you scroll down farther, you get to the tactics and their guerrilla warfare tactics in the Fens of Tor. The clan forces is a total strength of 220 members, and I got them listed here, the military strength broken down. And I also added some adventuring hooks to give you some ideas what you might want to use them for in your campaign. What I'm using for, I was using the Blackthorn orcs to take possession of the Ancient Soul Temple, but it seems to me like these would actually be a better choice to take over the ruins there. So that's why my comment there. And I got some dialogue, and I broke down on the right-hand side the equipment they have and the description of the different forces that they have. And anyway, I this is a quick article. I didn't make a map of their camp or anything, but I just wanted to make sure this existed in the campaign the website, so we can link it to other articles if we ever want to talk about adding more orcs to to an article of history or another location or NPC. All right.
It's a particularly good insignia. I really like the Stormlight symbol.
You like that, huh? Yeah. It took me about a couple hours to create that.
Yeah.
Several apps.
Nice.
I just put a bunch of pieces together. I made a circle, then I cut all that out, and then I added some lightning bolt and stuff.
Yeah.
It turned out pretty cool.
Very simple.
Then I added some effects to it to make it look like that. I use a lot of apps for my artwork. The storm watches, the storm strikes. I should rephrase that in orc. I don't know. I have no idea. I've been doing a lot of 5e stat blocks because it's going to make it easier for me later if I want to add this to an actual module to sell in DM's Guild. So that way that work's already been done. And, any DM worth his salt can take the stat block and just convert it to their rule set. It's not a big deal. I always make sure I include their levels because 5e stat blocks don't really have levels. It doesn't say 9th level wizard on the stat block. It says it later on under spell casting. It's pretty lame. But so anyway, I've been adding actual levels and class names to each of my stat blocks to go with it. So that way, anybody want to use the stat block and not run 5e, they can still use it because they'll know what level it is and what class they are. Especially the dual class characters, like a fighter or thief. Yeah, I make sure I spell that out.
It's surprising. It's a very, very quick shorthand. If you see someone's level, you can then map out in your own mind. If you're an experienced dungeon master, what can that guy do? It seems like an unnecessary muddying of the waters.
Yeah, I really appreciate you describing, you're explaining where these areas came from in the gnarly forest. I'll put the map up again on screen, and it really helps. So we skipped something important.
So we didn't get to the Cron Woods, and we didn't get to the Wild Coast Verge. So the Cron Woods, I mean, I think Anna Meyer's the gold standard for. I mean, she's an unbelievable resource that the fans of Greyhawk have.
Yeah.
But the Cron Hills actually go a considerable way into the gnarly forest because if you read the description of Nambural, it's actually in quite a steep valley in the Cron Hills. So the Cron Hills go a considerable way into the gnarly forest. And I thought it really needed some elaboration in terms of the gnarly ranges having an area that basically is bounded by the Kingdom of Selene in the south and in the midst of the forested gnarly forest. So, where Sheernob is and where the White Rock clan is, incredibly dense, broken ground covered in trees. So I really wanted a ranger to be in charge of that area, So that's hard where the term the woods came from.
Artistically, that's hard to depict. It really is.
Oh, it would be. It would be a nightmare.
It is. Yeah. I've been playing this new video game called Kingdom Come 2, and they do an excellent job of depicting that. I mean, it feels like you're really there. Really high quality game. I mean, it really feels like you're in 1450 Bohemia. And they have an area just like what you're explaining. There's a section on that map that you go to, these ravines and steep sides and hilly, craggy, and also really thick, dark forest. It's an exact depiction of what you're saying what you're describing right now in that area of the gnarly forest.
Yeah,
I'm going to think about doing a video on that.
It'd be great. You kind of want an area of the gnarly where it moves into the Whelkwood, and it's got to have natural barriers there because there's got to be a reason why the Viceroyalty of Ferendy didn't butt heads with the elf lords of, the area that is currently Selene, because there was no kingdom of Selene at that time, but the elves had been established there for thousands of years. So it's a good natural barrier to delimit the reach of the Viceroyalty. So it just made a lot of sense to make it extremely rugged and extremely sparsely populated, and just a beautiful natural barrier. And the last section
But
is the wild coast.
before we get to the last
Sorry,
section, Greg Wasson joined us. I put him up on screen here. He said, much like Custidus, I have borrowed thoroughly from the work of Three Orcs and the info he has posted on World Anvil and his books at the Dungeon Masters Guild. Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate your support and you're enjoying the material in your campaign. I really like to hear from Dungeon Masters, what they've done in their campaign with the material that I created. So it helps shape and guide the future of the campaign, creating more. I want to know if I need to go more into the Wild Coast, go up to Divers, maybe start going into Luna, maybe more into Selene. I don't know, Lort Mill Mountains, more of the dwarf stuff. So I like to hear from DMs what they're doing and what their interest is. And I really appreciate you saying that to me. And I really appreciate, I think you've been following me for a while, and keep it up. And if you have any questions on here, ask away and we can answer them for you. Okay. So we're talking about the Welk Borderlands.
Yeah. So the Welk Borderlands, it's probably one of the most pressing concerns for the Gnarly Rangers, because they are aware that it is the highway that a number of bandit companies, mercenary companies, goblinoid tribes, and orc tribes are using to get to the Temple of Elemental Evil. So, of all of areas in 576, this is the hotbed. You've got elf clans who are upset with nobody doing anything to stop these bandits, mercenaries, orcs, and goblins from coming through their lands. Selene doesn't formally control this territory, but you've got all these human polities that claim that they do, and the elves are like, why aren't you stopping this? So it is a source of tension for the elves. You've got Rothkor suddenly appearing there and throwing his around, and you've got the Wild Coast itself. I mean, Narwhal directly abuts this territory, and Narwhal isn't the nicest place in the world. Like, even before the Greyhawk Wars, Narwhal was full of bastards. So
I have Narwhal, the article on the website. I just haven't filled it in with all the locations in the city yet.
Yeah. So this particular Ranger Knight, she really has her hands full, because she has to treat with the elves and work with the elves and convince them that not all humans are bad, and she has to try to stop these humanoids from using her part of the forest to get to the Tor Badlands and the Temple of Elemental Evil. And you've got a green dragon, and you've also got the people of Narwhal, who are obviously going to do whatever logging they feel they should,
right?
To
it's right there,
expand their settlement. And Bad Deep is right there as well. Bad Deep falls in her territory. So Bad Deep is, it has been a plague on the Gnarly Forest for about, I think, 700 or 800 years, and they're doing their best to stop this rot from expanding further into the forest.
What's interesting, looking at this map, you see the merchant roads? No, those are merchant roads. They're major roads because they're on the map. Minor roads are not on the Anna Myers maps. So obviously these are major. They're dotted lines, but they're still major enough to be on the map. So I classify them as merchant roads. And it looks like if you want to do any kind of trade as a merchant from the Wild Coast, like Narwhal, to Hamlet, you're going to have to go through Humming's End and the Welk, both Cron Woodlands and the Welk Borderlands, and past Oakvane. And that means you're going to be passing between the two clans of NLFL, and I can't read it.
Filefel. In my game, I call it the Wild Road. Just because it goes to the Wild Coast, and B, because if you piss off the elves, then the elves are going to, be at best, see,
that touches
your wagon.
That touches on another subject. We talked about this last week. There's a big gaping hole in the campaign on the website, right smack down the middle of the Gnarly Forest, which is the 4 clans. and we don't have anything on the 4 clans. They're mentioned in the Gnarly Forest article, but they each need their own article of the village itself, their community, their politics, their relationships, the leaders, and their area of control. You know, what kind of patrols they have, how far out do they go. It looks like this road passes between 2 of those clans. Is this like
2 of their strongholds anyway, and very close to Oakvein as well.
So something needs to be defined here, because any dungeon master that wants to run a campaign in this area, you shouldn't be vague about this, because you don't know what your players are going to do, and they're going to do something weird or different. You know, come out of the left field to do something. You're not going to be prepared for this. You just got to make something up.
100%.
And I think it's beneficial to any dungeon master out there to have this stuff defined, and that's the goal of my website.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think I pointed it out last week. It bears mentioning that the way these labels on the map, they are the stronghold of each clan, but each the clans intermix. So in any given tree town in the Gnarly Forest, you will have handful of clan and Lenafil. You might have a little bit more of that of the Fialefel, and then you're going to have more of the Meldarin and the Sherendil. You've got intermixing, so that the clans have stronghold areas of the forest, but they are all in each other's communities. So
I get that.
I dare say, I will definitely address that when I finish up my little piece on the Enlenafel, because I'll be moving straight on to the Fialefel.
Well, Greg had a question real quick. Greg Washington asked if a great thing about Castles and Crusades is the system. Okay, sorry, he had 2 questions. The first one was, I was about to ask if the Storm Eyes clan would be at the temple from Noble Ambitions. He's talking about the ancient Sul temple where the lost treasure of House Osbury is at, that was taken from that house during the first uprising of the Temple of Elemental Evil before the Battle of Emerald Meadows. And Lady Eleanor, who is in charge of the house now, she wants her treasures back. The house, the sword of Osbury and the gem of Osbury, and the players can keep the rest. And so they, in the first module called Noble Ambitions, she hires the players to go through the Fens of Tor into the Gnarly Forest to the ancient Sul temple to retrieve these items for her failing poor household. And so originally I had the Blackthorn Orcs, a whole entire warband there, trying to do all this and playing around with the temple, the dark temple in there. And I had it's a lot. I'm going to rewrite that module and publish that dungeon. But he's asking, why not put the Storm Eye clan there instead?
It certainly makes a lot of sense too. In my game, I did not, because I had most of the survivors of that raid by the adventurers that managed to get away. The women and the children of the Orc tribe, they were snapped up by the Storm Eye. So I actually called them the Burnt Skulls.
So it's another clan.
And they were just a very small clan that took shelter there at the end of the Hateful Wars.
Well,
yeah,
wait a minute. So the Hateful Wars was like 80 years ago or so.
It concluded in 510.
And then like 7 years ago, there was the Battle of Emerald Meadows, and that army of the Temple of Elemental Evil consisted of all the tribes in the area and monsters. So you would assume that all these orc tribes in the area would have been swept up into this great army marching upon the Viscounty of Verbobonc, right?
100%.
So
I actually, for my game, took the work of, I think it was Paul Stormberg. He gave a breakdown of what was at the Battle of Emerald Meadows, and I adapted that to my campaign. So I actually put quite a lot of information in about that. So, yeah, there were at Emerald Meadows, there were 1,894 goblins, hobgoblins, and bugbears recruited from various tribes and clans from the Welkwood Bog, the Western Gnarly, the Northern Sus, and the Cron Hills. Right. 1,198 orcs, mostly recruited from the Storm Eye and Howling Moon clans, with a number of minor clans. I didn't actually delineate what the minor clans were. But yeah. So these orcs and goblins originally traveled through the the length of the Sus, the Welkwood, and through the Nali to get to the first temple. And a lot of these guys, when the first temple fell, when Emerald Meadows was lost, they fled to the Tor Badlands and became a problem there. So that's where most of those clans. It'd be fair to say that a number of those minor clans were really just displaced. They came either through the area from the Hateful Wars, or they came up to the area for the first temple, and now they're just basically eking out an existence. So very small numbers. So I'd encourage you to actually just make your own orc tribe. I called it the Skull Cave, because I think the descriptions of getting to that Sul Temple is inside a cave that kind of looks like a skull.
That's the description of the module. Let's see if I can't pull it up for you guys. I need to rewrite it, but I have my version of it that's kind of copy paste. Let's see if it's on here. I should not share this, by the way, because it's copyright, really. Where is it? I can't. Oh, plots. Am I on the right page? No, I'm in the wrong one. Oh well. See, this is my private site. There's a lot more here. Oh, I did a lot of work. Oh my god. This is the time when I did a lot more copy pasting. Like the Gift of Beauty quest, and then I have to rewrite this stuff to bring it over to the public site and add artwork and dialogue and all sorts of stuff, side quests. Crypt of the Fallen Thane. I'm trying to remember half this stuff. There's the Gnome series, the Fane of the Eye Prophecy. Istis, I did this video already before. I got Lara's Diary here, but that's for the Return of the Temple of Elemental Evil, and I do not like it, so that's why I haven't shared it. Lord Delavue summons you for the Gift of Beauty quest. That's done. These are other minor quests that I have used before. Where is it? Is it under? Oh, I know where it's at. Let's see. Noble series. Thinking and clicking at the same time isn't a good thing to do. Okay, so is it at the bottom of this thing? No. Sorry, it's taking me forever. I'm gonna have to give up here. Come on. See, this is a good reason why I'm rewriting it. It's a mess. I couldn't put this up for you guys. I wrote this for me to run my campaign, so I didn't really think about anybody else reading this. See what I mean? Everybody loves a hero. All this dialogue I wrote out, so I could use it at the table. I got.
So, how about I'll give you a minute to find it, and I'll read what I've written here about the Storm Eyes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the Storm Eyes arose since the Battle of Emerald Meadows by enacting a policy of non-involvement with strangers, and by taking in refugees from their former rivals among the now broken Green Axes, the Burning Skulls, and the Bloody Fangs, all of whom had been utterly vanquished by the Howling Moon, various adventuring and mercenary bands, and the viciously efficient culling campaigns of Ranger Knight Randar Redax and his Rangers. So, in times past, the Storm Eyes were already apostates from the Orcish pantheon, being firm adherents to the worship of Hextor. They were so this is going into sort of the rise of the Second Temple. They were decimated by the forces of the Second Temple for refusing to knuckle under and convert to worship of their own elemental and divine patrons. The Howling were given support to attack, enslave, and diminish their rivals, and the bad blood continues to this day. Some of the Storm Eyes even allied with adventuring bands that went on to attack and take down the Second Temple, seeking vengeance for their winnowing at the hands of their rivals. So, going forward into sort of 591 and beyond, the Storm Eyes actually wind up getting manipulated by a figure I've called the Black Sorcerer of Verbobonc. It's just a castaway reference that was made in the Slavers module years ago about a power-hungry, crazy wizard who dwells in the gnarly forest. And the guy has taken matters into his own hands about how to balance things. So he kind of sees himself not unlike the Circle of Eight. So he supports the orcs against the Viscounty because the Viscounty is exerting too much control over the Gnarly Verge, and he will also try to counter Greyhawk and Divers in the same way. Right. And the way he's done that is he's trying to suborn the Hexterites within the Storm Eyes and actually draw them over to the Old Faith. So he's sending in half-orc druids and rangers to basically try to change their culture because Hextor clearly failed the Storm Eyes. So they need a new divine patron.
Yeah, it's great that you're adding Hextor, the use of Hextor into the campaign. I don't see too many people doing that in their campaigns, and I hate it when
I love
some
Hextor.
Important gods are omitted from major campaigns. That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah, I think Hextor is fantastic.
Well, Greg also mentioned that he likes what he likes about Castles and Crusades is it's a system conversion on the fly is really good. I agree. I run that for years now. And he also said it's just fun to say Gnarly Rangers. I'd love to role play a character saying, I am with the Gnarly Rangers. Follow me if you wish to live. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so on the screen right now, I'm sharing my private version of the Temple of the Skull, which is the Ancient Soul Temple. And sure enough, I used artwork that I found on the internet for the entrance of the Ancient Soul ruins as a skull head, like you said. I have it on screen right now. And so I thought the same thing, and I found a great picture. I thought it was pretty good. It's got adventurers in it. And as you can see, as I scroll through this, see room 2A, room 2B, 2C, 3. On the right-hand side, I created these maps. These are hand-drawn maps of what the orcs have. The orc chieftain has these maps. These are marching orders. They were where they came from. Originally, I had the Blackthorn orcs coming from the south, from the Sus Forest. I thought somebody told me a long time ago Blackthorn was located down there, and I went with it. This is like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I found out otherwise later, but it was too late. I already made these maps. But these maps are cool. And there's another one here, which is probably more useful. So these marching orders are also invasion plans or raiding plans. These are the raiding paths they take to raid into the Viscounty of Verbobonc. And I also have a bunch of dialogue on the right. You gotta remember, I wrote this for me to run at the table. So I wanted some quick stuff on the right for orc, comments on orc and descriptions, like what the orc battle axe looks like, what the elite orc looks like, the orc chief, these descriptions. And I also wrote descriptions of the spells that the shaman cast. He casts a curse spell, but you don't just say he casts curse, now you're at -1 to hit. That's not role playing. So what I do is I wrote this out, a description of what he's doing, what he looks like as he's casting this horrible, evil spell. The players don't know he's casting that spell. You don't just say it out loud what they're casting. You describe what he's doing. It's up to the players to figure out what happens next. Then they find out later, the modifiers later. But in the moment when you're role-playing this, you just describe the spell. And I love doing that. So I write these out in advance so I don't take too much time at the table. I don't want to waste time. Yeah. I got one for command, augury, shield of faith, protection from good, spiritual weapon, darkness, and hold person. And as you can see in this article, all the rooms are keyed. All these, and with a flavor text, so that way I can, pace and timing is everything when you're running a game. You want them to have fun, and you don't want to do what I just did, trying to look for something, right? And then room 20 is the temple. Full description of what the temple looks like going into it and what happens when you're in there. There's shadows in there, by the way, and my players are only first level. I even have a Sherman. So if the players take too much time in there, and the shaman's still alive, he comes in with a delegation or with his orc. Prayer guys, I guess. Anyway, they walk in and he actually conducts a sermon for the tribe. And the players actually had to see this because they were hiding behind the altar in the back of the temple as they came in. No, they were hiding in the treasure room. and they had it cracked open or something, so they're spying on what they were doing up there in the temple, and that's when they attacked him. But they get to witness this entire sermon, which I spelled out so I can role play this. And then I have the animate dead spell going, and the shaman was a 6th level cleric. More description. All the treasures. There's a spiked pit trap with a flavor text for it too. And keep going. Look at this. There's a lot here. And then the adventure wrap up. And then I have links to the rest of the articles that you need to keep role playing once they leave the dungeon. So I need to rewrite all this. I need to seriously rewrite it. I can't just copy what this author wrote. I have to I have to rewrite. So you remember, he wrote this module for the Living Greyhawk series. Different campaign. It's in the 594 common years. Different stuff is going on. I'm running these modules to be run with the Temple of Elemental Evil campaign. Totally different campaign. So I need to rewrite it for that timeline and for all the things that are going on in the campaign in that campaign. So it'll be changed subtly. And also all the rooms, the map's mine. All the descriptions of all the rooms are mine. All the monsters. These orcs weren't there in his module. You know, the Blackthorn orcs. Yeah. That's all mine. But I need to change it even more. You know, maybe I'll change it to the Stormeye clan. So that's something I wanted to share. I'm done with that.
Did you ever get around to detailing the rest of the Sul Temple underneath? Because you get to that section where it's choked with rubble.
Yeah, I did.
And it's cool. I don't think
I gotta find
Living Greyhawk ever revisited it, but it's nice that you went to that trouble. Because,
the reason I did, I even had the tome of the ancient Sul history, the Sakatha, the Great Lizard King. They actually can find that there as a scroll of the history in that one room. Because I was going to tie that into the Lizardman village. I changed the name of the Lizard King, by the way. It's not that name anymore. All right, so we're looking for the lower level. God, where is it? What room is it? Let me scroll back up again and see what room number that is on the map. So we're talking about 6, location 6. So I have a link here. Oh, I never added the link. Yeah, I didn't add the link. It's called something else. See what I mean? I had to rewrite this stuff, but I do have a whole separate article with a dungeon map for the 2nd level. I stole the map from another online. I just repurposed that map for my use, and I rekeyed it. So the key's mine, but the map's not. So I actually probably need to redo the map too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be a lot of work. Maps take forever. I'm so sick of it.
Yeah. I think my little sort of head canon for the original temple was that it was
let's see.
You know, during the Great Migrations, it was established by the ancient Sul basically as a way station. Yeah, they wanted to work out their next moves, so they created this temple, and it was in the same time they created the Temple of Noldir, which I think is, you know, further southeast in the Sus, as they were trying to find their next step forward, as the Iridians are kind of hunting them, basically, because the Iridians blame them for the Twin Cataclysms. So I created a magical spear, which is central to my storyline, and the magical spear was basically wielded by the champion of that particular tribe of Sul, who would eventually go on to wind up on the Tilvanot Peninsula as part of the Scarlet Brotherhood. But I just never really revisited this particular temple. So I will read your work with great interest.
Well, on the screen, I've been working on this map all week because I'm trying to publish the Village of Nob. Because I got 4 modules published right now, and they're doing good sales. And so I need to hop on the train here, you know, and get another module out to continue this success. And I know Nob's going to be huge. Everybody's going to want that one. And I'm on page 54 already. I'm not done with the locations yet. Oh, this thing's getting huge. So there's VTT maps for all the important locations, like both taverns. Nob is pretty much going to be there's going to be a lot of fighting there. depending on where you're at. You know, when you return from the temple and you start causing more problems, more people are out to get you. And so there's gonna be a lot of fighting in Knoll. It's gonna be serious showdown time, kind of like an old Western movie. And it's gonna be action at the Waterside Tavern, the Boatman's Tavern, the Market Square, the Bridge, and also this place. This is the Baroness's Manor. You know, she's trying to take over Knoll, and so I know there's gonna be and all her talons are there. Her barracks is 18 men with her knight, Sir Torval, and her and a couple others, and they got nasty guard dogs too. So I know I thought, you know what, I definitely need battle maps for every prime location that combat or sneaking around will likely occur. So I felt like I really need to get this map done. And this is as far as I got so far, about a week's worth of work. It's slow going. And as you can see, if I zoom in, you know, there's a lot of detail. This is just a low res JPEG, so it doesn't look so good on screen. That's a lot sharper than this when I'm done. You know, I got all sorts of chambers, you know, the kitchen and the storerooms and stuff like that. Secret tunnels. And I got to redo the barracks. I need it to match the image I have at the location. And it's not quite the same look. But anyway, that's what I've been working on all week. So just to let you guys know what I've been up to. But I'm also been trying to finish up the lower level of the village, the Lizardman village, underneath where most of the villages is underground underneath the swamp. And so I've been mapping that out. And that's taken forever. And then from there, I guess I need to make a map of Twilight Falls. I wish somebody else was making these maps.
I've tried a couple of times. It's a difficult place to try to map.
Twilight Falls is really hard. It's really organic. You know what I mean?
Like having the waterfall there with the Twin Oaks. It's actually quite hard to try to make it work.
And like you said before, it's more rugged, right?
Yeah.
A lot of hills and stuff. Anyway, I probably should do it. I get bored after a couple hours, you know. I'm gonna watch a show. I'm gonna go play my game.
Yeah, I have a short attention span too.
I can't do more than 2 hours. I just lose it. Because I'm really picky. One of the problems with these mapping programs I have is I have a lot of objects. I make a lot of these objects myself. And I also buy other people's objects too. You know, like a table. And the problem with these apps is they are categorized, and they're, you know, you can search field like table and all the tables will pop up, but there's so many objects. I spend most of my time looking through the damn objects before I actually putting the object down. That's the biggest waste of time, really. It drives me nuts. Yeah. It's like, where'd that rope go? I don't remember where the rope is. I'm still looking for a certain rope. It takes me like 15 minutes to find the stupid rope.
Yeah, that must be vexing.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just bitching about it. Sorry. Oh, Rock the Hobbit's here. So Rock the Hobbit says, looks like the map with a good detail. Thank you. It is a map with great detail. I'm working on it. I want it to be useful in anybody's campaign. And I want it to not look like, I want to have a certain vibe to it. You know, I know there's the professionals out there, they hand create these, they hand paint them, and they have a really good feel, a vibe to them, like a cohesive piece of artwork. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm using a tool, Wonder Draft and Dungeon Draft, but I'm trying to get the tools to look fairly presentable like that. But I know it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's going to be, at least it's not going to look like some of those other stuff you see on the internet, where obviously this guy never made a map in his life and he just used a tool out there to throw something together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my maps are pretty basic.
Another thing about maps is, like on the screen here, this map looks really good on a VTT from the player's point of view with lighting. Oh, yeah. I had a couple of other DMs that ran this, and they were showing me screenshots of their sessions. Really cool. Because if you do the lighting right and you use Shadow, Theater of War, and it's really cool looking, because these rooms are very detailed with blood splatter and tools and cups and mugs and weapons. And so when you zoom in really tight and you use lighting and shadows, it looks really cool. Line of sight, it looks really bad. It looks better than this even, because you don't see all this outside graphics. You only see in the corridors and down the tunnel. It looks really cool. And especially the red. And so the Noble Ambitions module has a prophecy. The madman recites it over and over and over again. You got to decipher it. And if you count if you're a player, don't listen. They already know what I'm going to say now because I said the word count. And I said red. Oh, well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. 7th corridor. That gets you to the temple. It's part of the riddle. That's where the 7 comes from.
I had to go a bit further for my guys. No one quite got to the bottom of the riddle, so they had to consult Betham the Sage in Verbobonc to try to work out what it said. So if I can make that available to anyone whose players are struggling with the riddle.
Well, I already that location's already created. The whole entire city of Verbobonc is created. All the locations are fully keyed with artwork, dialogue, everything, including Betham the Sage. But if you have some extra lore to give or dialogue, I can add it to that article if you want.
Yeah, sure. No worries.
That way somebody could use it. I wrote it so long ago. I did the city of Verbobonc like a year ago, so it's kind of, my memory's hazy. My articles are getting better too, as you noticed. If you read my Nulb stuff, Nulb is done, by the way. The online version of Nulb is done, but I'm eliminating some locations and streamlining it for the module, and I'm actually perfecting it. I'm smoothing it over. I'm rethinking it. I'm rewording things. I'm actually improving it greatly. You know, whenever you do something over and over and over again, it turns out better and better and better. You constantly, refining it, and that's what I'm doing for the module. So
absolutely,
because I'm making great care of the space. Like one whole location is on an entire 1 page or 1-2 page spread. I'm trying to do that, so that way you're not searching through the whole module looking for something. And and I'm also, so I have to carefully word everything, and so it's to the point and very concise. So anyway, I just want to show you guys off what I was doing. We've been this stream's been almost 2 hours now.
Yes.
So it's longer than last week. Last week I think we did an hour and 15 minutes, maybe.
That hour 45, I think it was.
Oh, I forgot to hit record, by the way. I'm supposed to record these and then edit them later and put them out again as a video, like the subject of the Gnarly Rangers. I should have done that. Oops. So can you repeat all this next week? No, I'm just kidding. That would have been a great video. Just a video on those zones of the Gnarly. That would have been a cool video. That would have been a good video. If somebody would have watched that. It has value.
Can absolutely revisit it.
So is there anything you want to add to this week's stream? We kind of want to wrap this up. I don't want to go past 2 hours.
No, I think we've covered enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Rock the Hobbit's laughing at me. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so Greg said something, I think. Yeah, he did. So he said, I will be getting my players, assuming they survive the Noble Ambitions quest, into the Gift of Beauty, and then working their way towards Hamlet with 2 M's. So I'm glad. I want you, Greg. I want you to share your campaign with us some more. I wish you could come on and join our stream and tell us how your campaign's going. We could talk about it. So we do this every Sunday at 7 p.m. John D's invited too. If he ever wants to come online, I can send you a link to the VDO app, and you can join our session here. So I'd like to hear from Dungeon Masters, how their campaigns are going, and answer any questions you have about your campaign too. So I'm looking everywhere here. Everything looks good. So anything you want to wrap this up with, Halagon? Anything you want to say before we sign off?
Just once again, guys, if anyone's got any ideas about the rider of Rothkor the Green, I would love to hear what you have to say, and I'll incorporate. I will pass the information. I'll incorporate it into my articles on the Kingdom of Selene and the elf clans of the Gnarly Forest.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'll do some research too. Greg says that, do you have an explanation written on World Anvil anywhere why you have chosen to focus on the year that you have? But he's asking about the 576 common year. Well, that's the default timeline for running the World of Greyhawk box set. And also assumed all this time for for decades that that's the default timeline for the Temple of Elemental Evil campaign module. But somebody else pointed out that it says it in the module. It's supposed to be 578 Common Year, 2 years later. Well, anyway, I just go with 576 Common Year. You can start yours at 578. It's going to be the same thing. If you're going to run something later, like 594 Common Year and up, you're going to have to do some adjustments. All the locations don't change, and a lot of the NPCs don't change. So, but the website's still usable for your campaign. So Greg said that you can see that good. He said, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since the late 70s, and this is my first foray into Greyhawk. I'm having lots of fun so far with all the source material. Yes, I'm glad you are. I work on this every day, and I'm supposed to. Thank you for the $5. You know what? I just hit 4,000 watch hours in a year, and I don't get monetized till then. I've been doing this for like 4 years now. I finally reached 4,000 watch hours.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You got all these YouTubers are saying, "Oh, it took me like 3 months. It took forever to get monetized." And it kills me when I hear that, because I've been doing this for 4 years. And I guess one of the privileges of being monetized is you can get what's it called when you get money like this? I can't remember. It's a gift. That's all I know. It's a gift. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm gonna start promoting that some more. So yes, thank you. So thank you, Rock the Hobbit. Where was I at? I got sidetracked here. Oh, so yes, everybody's been playing since the late 70s or 80s. Great. But this is your first foray into Greyhawk. I'm glad you're using the source material, but this material is basically aimed at you. And I'm hoping to help you pull off a really great, epic campaign. Rock the Hobbit says it's a super chat. I can't believe I got super chats now. I didn't even apply. It just popped up. Wow, I have to look into this. Looks like I got something to do all week. All right, so I'll go ahead and continue this week on my projects, writing more. Every day I write more articles for like Twilight Falls and Nulb, and I'm also working on the module, and I'm also working on mapping. So I'm trying to push this as much as I can, trying to get other people like Hologant. Hologant, I need you to do the Elves of Greyhawk, the 4 clans. Thank you very much.
I will send you something on Enlenafell very shortly.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That'd be great help. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining the super chat. Thank you for joining the super chat, and I hope you guys have a good week, and I hope your players enjoy your campaigns as much as mine have. Thank you. You guys have a good week. Bye-bye.